So, Amanda, or Monster Girl, was a bright yet crass teenaged girl who attended an expensive girls' school. She was set to graduate at a young age when her senior class took a trip to Europe that would change her life. While on the trip, she stumbled across a Romani youth who swept her off her feet, and the two started a brief yet intense romance. Unfortunately, the young man's grandmother disapproved of Amanda's interest in her grandson. She forbade them to see one another again, but the two teenagers ignored the old woman's warning. As fate would have it, the youth's grandmother stumbled across the two lovers while they were in the middle of their romantic rendezvous. As a punishment for their defiance, she used her occult powers to place a curse upon Amanda. Initially, the curse seemed to have little to no effect, but on the flight back home, the true effect of the curse became apparent. Amanda felt a wave of nausea as the curse started to take effect and found herself huddled in the washroom as her body uncontrollably morphed into a monstrous troll-like being. The transformation lasted only moments before she reverted back to mortal, but it was only the first of many. At first, Amanda was terrified by the transformation, but she eventually gained mastery of the transformation itself and soon began to enjoy the power that was afforded to her by her monstrous alter ego. Even more so, from week to week, situations seemed to arise that required the strength of the monster. Before she knew it, she had become a local hero and was affectionately named Monster Girl. Over the course of several months, Amanda started to notice some strange changes that were happening to her body. Her monster form was slowly getting larger and much stronger, but at the same time, she was starting to look younger. It didn't take much longer after that point for her to understand exactly what was occurring. She finally understood the cost of her powers. Each time she transformed into the monster, she got physically younger, but retained her emotional and intellectual maturity. She tried to use her powers less, but there was always some crisis that required the monster's power. In the first year, she could no longer pass as a high school senior, and she had nearly lost every sign that she had gone through puberty. Depressed about her condition, Monster Girl began recklessly using her powers, heedless of the damage she was doing to herself. After some time, she heard the news about the new Guardians of the Globe and decided to enlist. When Robot introduces the new Guardians, Black Samson, Shrinking Ray, Duplicate, Monster Girl, which makes Rex laugh since she was small. Due to her young appearance, he mentions there not being an age requirement, but Monster Girl asks if there was not a dick size requirement. She then claims that Rex must be compensating, which humiliates him in front of the entire organization. Rex gets angry and begins to activate his powers, stating that someone should teach her some manners. But before he could even finish talking or activating his powers, she begins to transform and her arms grow huge, which shocked him. She punches him with her huge arm and he is sent flying into the training arena. She transforms into a big green humanoid and hits him once again, this time even knocking out some of his teeth. Rex gets angry and uses his powers, but his powers turned out to be useless against Monster Girl. As she punched Rex, Invincible stopped her and told her to cut it out, but was simply thrown in another direction. Angry, he flies in her direction and hits her hard enough to send her flying into a wall, as well as revert her back to her human form. He apologizes for having hit her so roughly, but she says that it is fine since she always got angry when called a little girl. She also apologizes to Rex for her dick joke. Robot once again introduces Monster Girl as a guardian and tells them that Rex would also join once he recovered. After that, he mentioned that Atom Eve would be the last member, telling them that he would be announcing it publicly later. But Eve tells him that she cannot be on the same team as Rex and Kate, and leaves. Robot tells the new Guardians that when forensic investigations concluded, they will move into the Guardians' headquarters. After everybody left, Monster Girl told Robot that she could not do 3 combat exercises a day, but Robot said he needed the team operational. Monster Girl tells him that whenever she transforms, she gets younger and even used to go by Monster Woman. Robot apologizes and sympathizes, but Monster Girl believes there was no way he could understand since he was just a robot. So, after the new Guardians move into the old Guardians base, Monster Girl tells Robot she is nervous, and Robot tells her that he is as well. Cecil walks in and Rex tells him that he had missed a spot when cleaning blood, but Cecil tells them that he had left that there as a reminder and would get cleaned off when they proved themselves to be worthy of the heroes that had come before. Monster Girl asks Rex if they are cool, and he says they are, since she had beaten him up in front of assholes. Robot walks up to Rex and tells him not to let his personal life meddle with his professional one, since it was his fault they were alienating Atom Eve and did not want it to happen with Monster Girl. Rex tells him that when he grows a pair, then he could tell him how to swing his. However, Robot mentions that he was giving him an order, patting him on the shoulder with a needle, which slightly hurt Rex. Later, as Mark tries getting up while taking down Machine Head, who had hired supervillains, he is thrown once again. Machine Head celebrates, but mentions he was getting a signal as the Guardians of the Globe show up. They mention that Cecil had gotten an anonymous call and would take it from there. Machine Head tells his supervillains to kill the Guardians, and they swiftly defeat them. Battle Beast mentions he believed Earth had worthy opponents and told Invincible that killing him would be an act of mercy. Black Samson tries to shoot at him, but fails, and Invincible is struck in his stomach and stops responding. Black Samson gets up and runs toward Battle Beast, who rips his hand from his wrist and throws him, cracking his head. Monster Girl tries to defeat Battle Beast as well, but is also swiftly defeated. Robot holds Monster Girl after seeing she was badly injured. Machine Head describes the events as strange and asks Isotope to get him out of there, but finds he does not respond and is hit by Rex. Mark awakens and Titan tells him that he did not mean for things to turn out the way they did before leaving. Meanwhile, Robot comforts Monster Girl and tells her he will fix her. Invincible, Monster Girl, and Black Samson are rushed into the GDA's ER. Monster Girl was drowning in her own blood and was intubated, but as they took care of her, she turned into the monster. Robot walks in and tells them he had studied her physiology, which meant that if they got him out of the room, she would die. He tells them that Monster Girl's only hope would arise if they triggered her healing abilities. At the GDA, Robot walks into a room, telling doctors that the levels they were seeing were normal for Monster Girl. He tells them he had sent a clone to the Arctic and had gotten a cerulean cosmos, which he believed would add 60% chance to her survival. He walks up to Monster Girl, while Samson, from the other room, saw he really cares for her. Robot tells him it was good to see him awake and explains that he was programmed to care for all humans, but he reminded him that he did not go to the Arctic for him. When Samson left, Robot put his hand on her face and she suddenly awoke. She asks if they had won, and he says that they had thanks to her and he had never left while she recovered. Monster Girl is welcomed back by the Guardians, who hug her. Rex tells them all they should party, handing her a milk carton that has beer in it. Monster Girl asks Black Samson why he has gotten his powers back, and he tells her he thinks it was because he was putting up with Rex. Robot tells her he is glad she has recovered, and tells her he would never let her die, but repeated the word die many times, which the Guardians in shock. Then, Cecil tells the Guardians to be quiet and sit tight until they are called. Rex is desperate and says they need to know what is happening, which Black Samson agrees with. He asks if Robot can find out, but Robot does not respond. Rex hits the robot on the head until they are approached by the new robot. He presents himself as Rudolph Connors, saying Robot was simply a drone he controlled remotely. Kate asks how they could know he was telling the truth, and Robot says they could ask him anything. Rex asks why he looked like him, but Robot told him to wait. Rudy tells the Guardians everything that had happened, but Rex still wants to know why he had picked his body. Everybody thought it was wrong that he had not asked Rex first, but Monster Girl realizes that he had done it for her. Rudy explains that Monster Girl was slowly getting younger and he was trapped in a mechanical tomb while she was stuck as well. Monster Girl goes through everything Robot had done and says that she needs time to process it. Later, the Guardians watch as the fight between Omni-Man and Invincible unfolds. Black Samson tells them to gear up because even if they could not stop the fight, they could save lives. Rudy tries to remind them of Cecil's orders, but Shrink Ray tells him they do not care. Monster Girl walks up to him and reminds him he is not a robot anymore. Later, after helping people and saving hundreds of lives, the Guardians return to their bunker exhausted. Rex walks up to the bloodstain on the wall and cleans it, but Black Samson tells him that they have not earned it yet. Rex tells him to fuck off, but when Black Samson grabs him, the Guardians all support Rex, so Black Samson drops him and told him that they were finally a team, helping him with the stain. A month after the Chicago incident, Monster Girl was seen helping the Guardians take down the Giant and saved Rudy from the Giant trampling him. Amanda asked why he froze. Rudy acknowledged that he was nervous and sweating. Amanda chuckles, replying that it was the fear interfering with his mind. It was merely a video game when he was Robot, and now he's here and tells him he'll get used to it. Later, Rudy asks Amanda on a date and the two go to see a movie, but were denied showing because it was an R-rated film. Amanda had made it abundantly clear that the two would not be having a romantic relationship, but that a friendship between the two would be interesting. Amanda and Robot found themselves falling in love despite Amanda's reluctance to do so. As the two became a couple, Robot came up with a secondary solution for Amanda's problem. He constructed a robotic duplicate of Amanda's monster form and a remote control that would allow her to control it from the Guardians' Utah headquarters. This attempt was a gross failure. Amanda's human intelligence couldn't cope with the complexity of action that the duplicate needed to function. So, frustration bloomed in Amanda as over the course of a year, menace after menace reared their ugly heads, forcing her to assume her monstrous alter ego time and again. Later, between the stresses from quitting the Guardians, due to a disagreement with how the Guardians handler Cecil attacked Invincible, and her ever-increasing rate of de-aging, Amanda finally blew up at Robot, demanding a cure. Fortunately for her, Robot had created one. Robot gave Amanda a belt that was resistant to the magic released during her transformation from human girl to monster. The belt monitored and regulated her genetic structure, repairing the flaw that the curse introduced into it, which caused her de-aging. Amanda's adventures continued at a hectic clip from that point forward. Both she and Rudy participated in several adventures, including the Invincible War, which saw the destruction of several world landmarks, the loss of thousands of lives, including that of Rexplode, and the decimation of the Guardians of the Globe. With the Guardians' tragic losses, Amanda and Rudy, who had rechristened himself as Rex in honor of their fallen comrade, rejoined the Guardians group, and their goal was to give them the desperate boost in power that they needed. Eventually, the Flaxan Empire invaded from their home dimension in order to renew their conflict with the people of Earth. Amanda and Rex were both present during the invasion and pursued the Flaxan's retreating forces through the dimensional portal while they were eventually routed. When they reached the Flaxan dimension, they quickly realized that the portal had closed behind them and the rest of the Guardians had not followed. Trapped and alone, the two were taken captive and imprisoned for years. While they were imprisoned, Rex spent his time planning their next move and learning the Flaxan language, and Amanda spent her time either waiting patiently or fighting as a gladiator for the entertainment of the masses. The two eventually broke free and led a rebellion against the Flaxan nobility. Despite their power and the numbers of the rebels, they lost, or so it was supposed to appear. Rex's plan was a long-term one, wherein the two heroes would change the Flaxan Empire's people from within generation after generation. While imprisoned, Rex and Amanda had noticed an unusual property of the Flaxan dimension. While they were with the dimension, they aged at an unusually slow rate. Through tales of their heroism or displays of raw power, Amanda and Rex eventually succeeded in inspiring the majority of the Flaxan people to fall behind them. They created a massive army and overthrew the Flaxan ruling class and created a golden age of peace amongst the Flaxan people. Amanda eventually noticed significant physical changes as Rex's belt did its work. She eventually grew up into a buxom beauty. The two consummated their relationship and ruled the empire as emperor and queen for generations. Unfortunately, Rex eventually realized exactly how heavy the crown was and began to neglect her. Amanda, who had never been able to learn the Flaxan's language, became lonely and embittered and eventually turned to the remnants of the former Flaxan ruling class for comfort. They had made the effort to learn English and they were able to communicate freely. Over time, Amanda grew sympathetic to their cause and second-class treatment at the hands of the New World Order. One of their number, a female, grew particularly close to Amanda. The two spent nearly every waking moment together and eventually, Due to Amanda's loneliness, they began a physical relationship. During their rendezvous, Amanda would assume her monstrous form and make love with the female. Eventually, Amanda decided that enough was enough and that their treatment was so unfair that she decided to overthrow Rex. They enacted a plan that waited for Rex's guard to be lowered and then had the former ruling class attack. When Rex's attention was focused on them, she attacked him herself and took him prisoner. It was shortly thereafter that Amanda realized that she had been duped. Once they had regained power, the former ruling class had immediately and systematically started to murder their former oppressors and prepared to invade other dimensions once more. Enraged, Amanda broke Rex free. The two joined forces once more to regain control of the Empire. The fight was fierce yet brief, and in a short period of time, Rex was firmly back in control of the Empire. However, the fracture that had come at Amanda's betrayal was seemingly irreparable. Despondent and homesick, Rex decided to return to Earth and leave the Flaxans to their own devices. Amanda, left with nothing, decided to return with him. All in all, the two were gone from the Earth dimension for a few months. However, for the two of them, over 700 years had passed. After leaving his long life in the Flaxan dimension behind, Robot arrives back on Earth alongside Monster Girl. Cecil helps them both get back up to date on the recent happenings on Earth. Cecil then offers Robot a new position in the Guardians of the Globe and beyond, that of the coordinator of every superhero team on the planet. Robot accepts Cecil's offer and begins work in his new role immediately. After finishing up in his meeting, Robot informs Monster Girl of his decision to accept Cecil's offer, also asking her how she is readjusting to life on Earth, to which she tells him that everything is so different than it used to be. Robot later attends a party thrown in his and Monster Girl's honors on their return to Earth. Though many of his Earth friends try to welcome him back, Robot is constantly distracted by Monster Girl, being hit on by many of the male superheroes, and becomes even more distanced when she leaves the party with Bulletproof. So, after returning, Amanda and Rex rejoined the Guardians of the Globe, but their relationship was definitively over. They were able to fight alongside one another, but couldn't be in the same room otherwise. Months passed again, and predictably the Flaxan Empire attacked once more. Amanda, Rex, and the other Guardians arrived in Britain to face down their forces. They nearly succeeded in routing them within minutes of their appearance when the new Flaxan Emperor appeared on the battlefield. The Flaxan Emperor single-handedly wiped out most of the Guardians. His strength and weaponry seemed overwhelming. He eventually came face to face with Amanda in her monster form, and the two engaged in one-on-one physical combat. When Amanda knocked his helmet loose with a sledgehammer blow, she was greeted by a face uncannily similar to her own monstrous visage. Monax, as the Emperor named himself, was the bastard son produced by her brief affair with the ruling class female. When Amanda and Rex abandoned the Empire, Monax rose to power quickly and turned them back into a race of conquerors. Despite their familial relationship, Amanda did battle with her son, but her shock at his appearance and existence allowed him to gain the upper hand and blast her into helplessness. As he gloated over his victory, Robot teleported into the battleground personally with a veritable army of automatons and drove Monax off. While the two had a brief respite, Amanda listened to Robot as he apologized for his inadequacies and begged for her forgiveness. As he finished apologizing, Amanda rose to her feet and defended him from Monax, who had broken free of the other automatons. The two former lovers then joined forces to battle and distract Monax long enough for the barely recovered Guardians to defeat the Flaxan troops. When the Flaxans were finally in custody, Amanda herself landed the final blow on her son and took him into custody. With that, Rex and Amanda reconciled their past sins and became a couple once more. Robot later goes out on a date with Monster Girl, still trying to fully reconnect with each other. After the date, Robot asks Monster Girl if she is still having a hard time readjusting to Earth life. Amanda asks him if he is struggling because he is no longer in charge anymore, to which Robot snaps back, telling her that he used to rule an entire world and be someone important. But now that he is back on Earth, he no longer is. During his time working on the portal to the parallel dimension for Mark, Robot begins working on other projects in secret rooms all over the artificial room, making sure to conceal them from all the other Guardians and even Monster Girl. After trapping Invincible in another dimension, he lies to everyone about Invincible's death. But when Invincible returns and exposes Robot, he starts his plan of killing superhero and villains before taking over Earth. During the time of his slaughter of the Earth heroes, Robot is confronted by Monster Girl, having invited her to come and see him on one of the artificial Earth moons. Robot informs her of his desire to take over Earth and turn it into a more peaceful planet like he did with the Flaxan homeworld. Robot asks Monster Girl to join him and be by his side to fix Earth together. Monster Girl tries to talk, but they are both shot at by Best Tiger, who is trying to assassinate Robot, and before Robot can catch the superhero, he escapes into a ventilation duct. Robot tells Monster Girl not to worry about Best Tiger, telling her he won't get far. This causes Monster Girl to realize Robot has already started his massacre of Earth's heroes, and she demands to know why he would betray her and them in such a way. Robot then realizes that Monster Girl won't help him take over Earth and has his drone constructs restrain her, which easily overpower her monster form. Robot then tells his former love he has to go through with his takeover and embraces in one final kiss with her, telling Monster Girl he will always love her before having his drone constructs eject her into space through the airlock. Monster Girl appears to have died in space, but she is saved by Anissa, who found her floating in space. Anissa then takes her to the Viltrumite ship, where Monster Girl's life is saved by the Viltrumite doctors. Years pass after Robot's takeover, and things turn out to be much better than Amanda had expected. Robot made Earth a better place under his rule, but still people did not feeling free under his rule, and that's why they wanted to overthrow him. The best opportunity came when Invincible became the Viltrumite Emperor and attacked Robot with all his forces. During this insane battle, Robot confronted Amanda in order to talk, but Amanda exposed his location to Invincible, who flew him to outer space and killed him. After this, Robot's brain was preserved in a chemical, and he could only talk with the help of machines. When he said he wanted to talk to Amanda, she rejected him and told him that he deserved all the pain he was feeling. After this, Amanda kept working as a member of the Guardians of the Globe, and her son Monax also joined her. During one of her missions, she came across Kid Invincible. We don't know what happened after this, but Amanda probably kept working as a member of the Guardians of the Globe.